Welcome back to The Big Three. This October, we are bringing you fresh interviews every week. Our series continues today with the one and only Doug DeMuro, the Quirks King himself. Joe and Doug talk YouTube, cars and bids, and the cars that get him fired up. Sit back and relax. It's Doug DeMuro.
Welcome back to The Big Three. We have a very special guest for you this week. The one, the only, Mr. Doug DeMuro. Thank you, Doug, for joining us.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm joining you.
Yes.
We are at the Cars and Bids bunker here.
That's right.
Undisclosed location.
Except it's in all my videos on the navigation screen, but it's no problem.
Do you guys always have to wipe your location from Google?
No, this is not publicly accessible, this spot. So like, it's not really a big deal. Like you can't come in like a car elevator. You can't really come in here.
It's like a kind of intimidating process to get down here. We get in this huge car elevator that has like a big motorcycle chain powering the whole thing.
That's right. And it broke one time. One of our employees was on it and the fire department had to come.
Oh, no.
So that was a good day. Thankfully, it wasn't me. I wouldn't have stood for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on The Big Three.
Yeah.
We've worked together in the past. You came on like a game show that we had where it was like, guess how much this cheap car from 2001 costs now. And I think I had the worst allergy attack I've ever had that day. And I was like so excited to work with you. And I'm like, hell yeah. And then I just could not stop sneezing. And it was a bad day for me, but that was a fun video to shoot.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I had a great time with that video and I won, which is the most important thing.
When you're having fun with your friends, you got to win.
You got to win.
So I don't think I've seen a podcast where you kind of explain how you got started and your journey to where you are right now. Your first job in the industry was like car sourcing for Porsche for press cars?
No, I didn't work in any sort of PR or marketing capacity at Porsche. I worked at Porsche's corporate headquarters in Atlanta, but I was I had a job in operation, like fixed operations. Like I was responsible for allocation, like all the vehicles allocation to the dealers.
Oh, gotcha.
And especially in that era, it was an interesting gig. It was right after the recession. Like I was the first person they hired after they had done a big hiring freeze for a long time after the recession in 2009. And I think I got, 2009, 10, they like didn't do any hiring. And I started working there right after that, like summer of 10 when I graduated from college. And yeah, that was, I worked there for 3 years and that was like my first gig, just allocating cars to the dealers.
That's awesome. I mean, to start at Porsche too, as like a car fan, that is like the pinnacle. Every car guy wants a Porsche, wants a 911.
It's interesting because my dream was always to work. I wasn't a Porsche. I didn't know much about Porsche at the time. I still don't consider myself really that much of a Porsche person. Like Porsche was in Atlanta and I had gone to college in Atlanta. So that's it was the only, at the time, Mercedes-Benz hadn't moved to Atlanta yet. And so Porsche was the only automaker in Atlanta. But I actually really wanted to go and work for one of the big automakers because I thought I wanted to like rise up in the ranks and like, have a high level management position one day at General Motors or at Ford or Toyota or somewhere that like I could make cars that like a lot of people. I always viewed Porsche as like a niche brand for like enthusiasts, but I wanted to be like a guy who was like a decision maker at like a real automaker.
Doug Iacocca.
Yeah. That was my dream. And so Porsche I always kind of viewed as like by necessity because it was local in Atlanta and there was an easy way for they hired interns out of our college and that's how I got started. But yeah, that was my dream back then when I was 22 coming out of school.
So how did you transition from doing that job to writing? And did you always want to write?
I had always been a good writer. I still consider myself a better writer than a video person. It's just that like demand for video is where it is and demand for writing is dropped off. But I used to write for Jalopnik and people loved it. It was great. I had so much fun doing it. And then video became such a thing. But after a couple of years at Porsche, it became clear to me that I'm 22, 24. I don't know that like sitting at a desk, sitting in a cube, like doing spreadsheets is necessarily what I want to be doing right now, like at that time. And I figured I'm pretty young and I already had freelance writing gigs. I was doing sort of not allowed, but they didn't know about it. Sort of like at night and on weekends, I would like go home after a full day of work and like bust out my laptop and do freelance automotive writing for various outlets. But it got to the point where I was making more money freelance writing than I was in my Porsche job. And at some point I was like, I should just quit and do this and like see where it goes. And if it doesn't go anywhere, I could always just try to go back into the industry. But it did.
It took off.
Yeah,
famously.
Yeah.
What was it like working at Jalopnik? It was all probably remote work?
Well, at the time when I was with Jalopnik, I had moved then from Atlanta to Philadelphia, and Jalopnik's headquarters was in New York City. Philly's only about 2 hours from New York, so I would go up there. I went up there a few times every so often. And that was like the heyday of Jalopnik. I don't want to say anything bad about Jalopnik now. It's fine. But like back in the day, it was like where you went for car stuff.
Yeah. I was going to say that is like pinnacle time for Jalopnik.
Yeah, it was the pinnacle time. It was like 14, 15, 16 before the Hulk Hogan thing with Gawker that like then Gawker got split up and sold. And it was, was
Jalopnik part of Gawker?
Jalopnik was a Gawker blog.
And I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so, and their offices were right there in the Gawker offices. And so that was like the pinnacle era was like those guys, Matt Hardigree and Travis Okolsky, who were like, then went on to do other automotive journalism's big stuff. But we were all there and it was killer. Like it was super fun. I loved it. I loved being a part of that crew. I loved being a part of Jalopnik at that time.
Did you ever have that moment where you're like, these are the good times and you recognize it in the moment?
Yeah. Absolutely. I really felt that way. It was cool to be in New York media. Like it was cool to be at the #1 car thing. Like it was pretty clear. But at that time in my career, I was always just striving to like get bigger and do more.
For sure.
And so like, yes, looking back on it, it was the good times. And you could feel that to some extent, but there was just this like fire in me that there's more to be done here.
Yeah. Was there like a certain snark test that you had to pass to work at Jalopnik?
No, but they definitely went after people who had a, and that was a Gawker thing in general, who had like an opinion.
Yeah.
Like who had something to say. Like we were not reporting on the news, just like putting up a news story. There was something to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the comment section was tremendously active as well. And that kind of fed it. Like you would have a take, they would have a take. The writers were always in the comments, defending their, and it was cool. It was really cool.
That is cool. And it's such a unique take too, like that era especially.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't overtly negative. It wasn't like I'm shitting on this just to shit on it.
Right.
It's like there's a funny take on it while like also kind of respecting whatever you're writing about.
Totally. And the commenters were actually, I thought, pretty high quality too, which is very rare on the internet.
You're talking about like the users.
The users. Yeah. And so like they were right there with you. Like if you had a bad take, they would take you to task for it, but not like on YouTube where you get these just a lot of low value comments.
Yeah.
Gawker had figured out something that nobody else before, or in my opinion, after has ever figured out, which was a way to prioritize high value, high quality comments in the comment section.
Yeah.
And so rather than being first or having the most likes, they kind of did it based on, did the writer reply and get into a dialogue? Oh. Is it a long comment? Does it? And so like those kind of comments surfaced at the top. And so that ended up kind of making you be a better writer too, because you knew that there would be smart people who were going to come after you.
Get actual constructive criticism in the comments.
And it really felt, and they had like a blog system where anybody could blog. And so it kind of felt like there was an ability for the comments to like be part of the story.
Yeah.
And it just made it fun.
That is
and it incentivized people to comment and continue reading.
For sure. Yeah. And then you kind of build cred up as a commenter.
Yeah.
Almost like the Reddit format.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to YouTube.
Yeah.
When you first started YouTube, what was your plan?
My only plan was, because I felt like I would be a writer, my only plan was to make some videos that went along with my articles. So I got an email from a reader sometime in 2013, and he said, "Hey, you write these great articles. You should make videos." And it hadn't been on my radar.
Yeah.
And so this guy emailed me, and I was like, I should make videos. And I did, and started doing that. And I started making the videos. And what happened to me, and the greatest gift Jalopnik ever gave me, certainly was not money, because they weren't paying well. The greatest gift they ever gave me was, it's funny because I now tell all budding freelancers I know never to write for exposure. But what actually happened was the people would view the articles and then click on the videos that were in the articles.
Oh, yeah.
And that sent this signal to YouTube. There's all these people, there's this new guy, and there's all these people watching his video. Well, the people were coming from Jalopnik. And so right off the bat, the YouTube views started to take off. And of course, then that put me in more algorithm, success and all that. And I started doing that end of 13. And by the spring of 15, it was clear to me that like YouTube was the way forward. Like I was getting more views in my videos than I was on the articles, that that the videos were supposed to be companion pieces to.
Yeah.
Like the videos were just like an extra thing that was like a little fun part of the article. And then and I honestly didn't even check my YouTube metrics until like spring of 15 after I already had 100,000 subscribers.
That's
and
so
I
funny.
was like, oh, like I had looked and I had seen it, but it was never my priority. It was never, ever, ever my priority. And at some point I was like, I probably should start prioritizing.
That's really funny. I mean, it probably worked towards your favor if you're making videos just for yourself, making videos to accompany an article that you had already done the research for, you already formed an opinion. And so you basically have this whole video written already before you start shooting it.
Right.
And now you're doing this whole thing and not even paying attention to
I guess
how it's performing.
I never thought about the concept of like, it was always being dictated by what I thought the readers wanted to read. And so the videos it wasn't that what do I got to do for the algorithm? It was more like I'm doing this already. So here it is. I never really thought about the fact that may have not only been beneficial, but it also kind of a lot of people I see trying to start YouTube, they don't know what to make.
Yeah.
And I never had that issue because I was writing the articles. I already knew what the video was going to be about.
And a built-in audience and
turned out
people that trust your opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
How early on was it that you came up with Quirks and Features and the Doug score?
The Quirks and Features thing, initially my videos were only about cars that I owned. And I would do a thing every year on Jalopnik where I would ask the readers to help me choose my car. It was called the Doug car. And there would be thousands of responses. And every time I solicited advice for the new Doug car, it would literally take me 2-3 days of like hard 8-hour, 10-hour work just getting through all the comments, like only doing this. It's the only thing I'm doing all workday. Just to figure out and then I would buy the car that they recommended number one, and I would give them a budget constraint or something. And I did that for years. And so the Quirks and Features stuff, I mean, has come from the car reviews, but back then I drove my Hummer on a racetrack, and there's all this dumb stuff. It was great. And but then at some point I started to do a few car reviews. We rented a Tesla on Turo right when the Model X came out. We rented one on Turo, and there were a few other things like that. And it got me that the car reviews were performing pretty well and didn't require as much investment because I didn't have to go to an off-road park 3 hours from my house in a car that I had purchased. I could just drive around in a Tesla for an afternoon and shoot a video and say, okay, that's actually getting more views than me buying a car and doing something with it and having to come up with ideas. And so then I started reviewing the cars, all these individual cars, and at some point in there, the Quirks and Features thing started. The audience really got that going. I'm sure I said it a bunch without really realizing it, but it was the audience who picked up on the fact that I say it and this and all that. That was all audience driven.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah, it is.
And then you just feed into it, and then it feels more of like a community.
Right.
Yeah.
For the first couple of years, I didn't feel like I had a catchphrase, but then the audience realized that I do, and they kind of gave it to me.
That's really funny. We spoke with Matt Farrow a while ago, and he was talking about how around 2016, 2018, when YouTube turned into this more numbers game where volume was more important than length or anything. He would line up, have people, five people with their cars, meet him at the crest, and then he would review them all. Did that happen to you at any point where you just I need to come out with a video every day? And how did that process work for you? Because you put more, your videos are so in depth.
Yeah.
You go through all the specs,
right?
The history of how a car came to be. What is the process for you? This is it's turning into a complicated question.
No, I mean, the beginning of the question, in 16 to 18, we really did start to become, and that's also when it hit me that I could make a living from this. Yeah. I didn't really feel I could make a living just from YouTube until the summer of 16. So I'd already been doing it basically for 3 years. And I did meetups going across the country. I had driven my Aston Martin across the country to my wife's family reunion, but along the way back, I did meetups. And I did them in Boise and Billings in North Dakota, one in Chicago, and one in Minneapolis and one in Ohio. And the Minneapolis one kind of changed my life. I showed up there and expected 20 people to come. Because the first 3 were in smaller places and only about 20 people came. And I showed up in Minneapolis and there were like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
Wow.
And the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile showed up and it was like this crazy night. It was incredible. The energy was insane. And then it started pouring rain and we all had to clear out. It was like this very beautiful thing.
Everyone get in the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
Yeah. And so I only then started realizing I could make a living doing it. And then I got really focused on the numbers in a way that none of my colleagues did. And honestly, I think that a lot of the reason that I had success on YouTube is because I really was focused on like what did well, let's do it better, let's refine it, let's make it great, and let's do it again. And a lot of my YouTube colleagues, with no offense to them, I love them all. I know every car YouTuber personally, like they were just like making video. Like these weren't like, I had an economics degree. Like I was really, really into the numbers of it. And I think you almost needed to be somebody like that to attain that level of craziness.
Yeah.
And the other guys were often really successful, just kind of winging it.
Yeah.
But there was like, that was never going to be me. I was always going to approach it from an analytical perspective.
If you look at your channel too, like throughout the entirety of your channel, there's such a consistency with packaging, thumbnails, even length of video and just like format of the video is so consistent.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important on YouTube. People want to know what they're getting from the first 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You know? And this, like that first word is your hook.
Yeah.
And it gets people in, and then the nutritional value is what keeps them.
Right.
But that's why I always respected your channel and always kind of referenced it to write our videos too.
I agree with that. The consistency was important, and also just delivering an enormous amount of info and content and like quirks and weird stuff, and trying to get like crazy cars. It was hard though. Those years, looking back on them, operating. You talk to successful people and they'll tell you like operating at that high of a level for that long of a time is really hard.
Oh.
Like we were number one. I think I still am the number one car reviewer in America. Like it is hard. Like next week, you got to have another cool car on Tuesday. You got to have another cool car on Thursday. You got to go out there and operate at that level. And any video that falls short, you feel like crap. And it's like a football coach who goes, you got to go win every week. And it's like operating at that level year after year. You see challengers come up and you got to stay at a super high level year after year was a lot.
The burnout is real and it destroys you on a molecular level after a while.
Yeah.
At that time, I mean, throughout that whole process, was it just you? Did you have an editor? You were editing too?
Yeah, I did it all. Which I loved. I actually enjoy editing.
Yeah.
I often tell people that I think their success on YouTube, if they're like, people ask me, I'm just starting out, which I do. I tell people sometimes their success will depend on whether they enjoy editing videos, because when you're starting, you're editing your own videos.
Yeah.
And if you hate that ends up being half the time. Like half the time is shooting the content and half the time is editing the videos. And like, if you don't like that half, that's half. That's like a lot of what you're doing.
You're going to get burned out real fast.
You're going to get burned out. It's going to suck. But I loved it. I still wish I could do it. But I can't. It's not realistic with our scheduling. I loved editing the videos, but it was just me until we launched Cars and Bits. So that was summer of 20. So it was just me from the beginning in 13 all the way to 20. It was amazing though, because it was a super easy business. Like it was just, like there was no salary, there was no overhead. The only expenses were my travel, which occasionally was significant, and like a tripod and a camera and some mics. Like that was it. Like I would show up with a backpack to basically every shoot, and people would be like, "Where's your crew?" And I'm like, "This is it."
That's really funny.
And that allowed me to be super compact and super dynamic. Yeah. And like I could shoot in any Mormon church parking lot that would have me, and that's just kind of the way it went.
When you're talking about the pandemic a little bit. When the pandemic hit, how did it change your business at all?
I'll never
just talking
forget,
about YouTube, not Cars and Bits.
Yeah, I'll never forget the pandemic. I presumed at the pandemic that it would blow up because people were going to be stuck inside watching content, and that is basically what happened. 20 was a really good year. And in fact, my accountant at one point told me like that I qualify for PPP or whatever because I'm a business, and I was like, I'm good. Yeah. Like I felt that it was like un-American. Like I was doing great.
Yeah.
That month, March of 20, I was holding like my C8 Corvette review. because I wanted it to go up at the end of the month. That was March. And so the end of the month, end of the quarter is when ad revenues are highest. And I had filmed it like the 1st of March. And I was like hoping that like Throttle House or whoever it was, my competitor at the time, like didn't get it before me.
Yeah.
And I was able to put it up at the end of March. And that video like went absolutely nuts, like 12 million views, just totally blew up.
I remember that one.
That video changed how I was perceived by the automakers. And that was a COVID effect, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm actually lucky it didn't happen in April of 20 because ad revenue then, there was a couple months there where it like plunged because no one wanted to spend anything. The economy was tanking. Everybody was terrified. Yeah. But in March, things were still good.
I think we were one of the competitors that were like about to drop a video too. I think we did like a bumper to bumper at the top of the Peterson with the C8.
Oh, yeah.
And so you beat us.
It was a crazy time. It was a crazy time. And then there was, then COVID happened. And I will say one other major change to my business, to the car review business with COVID was, I got nervous about COVID. My wife and I were trying to get pregnant at that time. And there was all these reports that pregnancy and COVID had like especially high risk factors. And so I used to film all my videos at car dealerships and kind of just would go around the automakers because like they were slow or they thought that so-and-so deserved the car before me. And I was like, screw that. I'm just going to find another one. Like I got to be first. It's YouTube.
Yeah.
And, but the car dealers were not particularly COVID conscious. And so I started, that's kind of when I started getting into the press car situation too.
Yeah.
Which I kind of still mostly do.
If you give a bad review to a brand new car, like it might upset the car maker or whatever. Yeah. How do you find a balance between like being real about the car and, like doing enough that you will get another press car after that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in a privileged position where I don't really care. Like I love my automaker PR contacts. Like most of them, I don't really care. Like if they want to pull, we got a lot of content. I shoot a lot of cars that are for sale on Cars and Bids. If Honda wants to pull, if Toyota want, I also like am in a financial position where I don't really have to care.
Yeah.
And so I truly do not care.
That's awesome.
And
that's very freeing.
It is freeing. I will say though, people are always like, oh, that's great. It's freeing. There aren't really that many bad cars. It would have been cool to be in that position 20 years ago where there was some trash and you could have just bagged on it, but that's not realistically a thing anymore. I don't remember the last time I reviewed it. I mean, Maserati sometimes, but a car and really felt like this is just totally bad.
Yeah. On that note, we always talk about it now because, I feel like my parents especially, I'm just using them as an example, but a lot of people think this way of, it's closing on 100,000 miles. It's probably going to die soon. And I feel like that sentiment is tied in with how cars used to be shitty.
Right.
Now if Sienna can beat a Ferrari now, it doesn't matter. Right. Cars are great now.
Yeah.
How do you find ways to nitpick and find details to differentiate these cars?
I think the only real nitpicks when you're doing car reviews and comparing to competitors is style, color selection, price point. You're really not saying anymore the Buick LeSabre is just trash, don't buy it. It very rarely exists anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing that has benefited me. My channel is all about these weird quirks that cars have.
Yeah.
Cars are now so good, and in the electric cars case, the powertrains are the same. The automakers have to come up with weird ways to differentiate the cars. And I think a lot of them have added some really weird quirks to their cars in order to make them different. I mean, we're seeing these Chinese cars that can jump.
Yeah.
That's going to be the future of cars. If every car goes electric, the engine noise, the feel of the acceleration no longer will be a differentiating point with cars. So then why would you buy X car over Y car? Well, because Y car has a fish tank in it. I really believe we're going to start seeing even crazier stuff. And I get that now in cars I review. More and more automakers are just trying weird crap to make their cars seem cool. And I'm here, it's feeds perfectly into what I do. Give me the quirks and features.
I think that's awesome. Yeah. I feel also the Pimp My Ride generation is getting into some more buying power now. Yeah, and so maybe there's going to be a popcorn machine in one of these cars.
The Cybertruck is a good example, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of electric pickup trucks. Here's one that looks like a crazy future. That's a way to do that kind of thing. And I think there will be more cars, not necessarily that go that far with styling, but you're going to see more weird stuff in cars.
I think so. And I feel US car makers are already behind on the kooky stuff too.
Yeah.
You know, like the best we have is like a Fratzonic exhaust,
Right, yeah.
which did you see someone just got a noise ticket for it?
Yeah.
It's the dumbest reason to get pulled over.
Yeah,
a fake exhaust sound.
Right. It is laughable that would happen. Although, man, that car.
You got thoughts on that car?
I love how it looks, and the lease deals are so cheap that
It's
I
insane.
have thought to myself, like, if I could fit this into my life, which I can't because I have kids and I have enough cars.
Yeah.
But like at that price point, I started seeing a few of them around.
Yeah.
And San Diego's like the place because it's California, so EVs are pushed. And also San Diego's kind of conservative, like Charger guys. And so like you combine those two things, like there's only the only place. And so like it's like pretty interesting. I see them. I'm like, I like how these cars look. I'm like into it. And for whatever it is, like I've heard people talk about like $199 a month, and it's like, or even less.
That's
like,
nuts.
I'm here for that car.
Yeah.
I actually had fun driving it too. I think it's not so bad.
It is. It's very quick. It is weird because I think it looks really good in like the flashier colors. Like the orange looks amazing. You can see that like the hood, the Nakada kind of thing. Yeah. It doesn't look great in black.
Yeah.
It doesn't accentuate those like crazy lines.
I like though that they went with a different retro Challenger look, and I think I legitimately think it looks good. It just needs a gas motor, and they're going to do it, and I bet that car ends up being a success.
I think it will, and you see stuff like that with like the ID Buzz is like $20,000 off.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's the coolest EV on sale.
Yeah,
and I want one desperately, and 70 grand is just not.
It's
realistic.
crazy. I mean, initially when they said 40 grand, I was like, that I would pay that price.
The mistake they made on ID Buzz, ultimately, in my opinion, was the product planners made the incorrect decision to only offer the long wheelbase in the US. And by offering only the long wheelbase and the top powertrain, it added to the price. In Europe, there's a short wheelbase, which not only looks better, but also like realistically, the people buying that, I don't think are replacing minivans. I think like if you want a minivan, you need practicality, you need a minivan. That car is more for like people who want something cool and quirky, and they don't need the size. They need like something cool and quirky.
If you're graduating from like the Scion XB.
Yeah, it's that kind of buyer. It's like the person who was 30 when the XB came out 20 years ago, and now they got some more money. Maybe their kids are gone. They're like, all right. And I think that was a mistake. And then they could have priced it at a more reasonable number too. I think at 40, which is where they're going to be on the used market next year. Yeah, that's a pretty appealing car.
Yeah. And we took a drive in it inside the LA Convention Center, which is the last place you want to do a car review. But like, I was really taken back by like, they thought of everything. They thought of like multiple USB chargers at every single seat. I love, like the moonroof that can go opaque at the flip of a switch. Yeah. Also just like the outlets in the back. Like, I think it's a great, like,
and it just looks so cool. It's the first EV I've truly been like, Rivian, I guess kind of too, but I like want that. Like Teslas are great because of what they are, but they're not cars that inspire a lot of desire. Yeah, right. They're cars that like are amazing commuters, but like the ID Buzz, I was like, I want that.
I know. And Teslas are just like, our California freeways are just littered with Teslas. Yeah.
And Buzz is special. Well, there was a night when we had I had Buzz as a press car. I don't really use the press cars for like personal errands, but we had Buzz as a press car, and my wife and I had a date night, and like the Carrera GT and the Countach are in the garage, and we're like, let's take Buzz. And people freak out. That was before it came out, and people are like freaking out driving it around. It was so cool.
Yeah. Now that we're talking about the Carrera GT, which is right behind me. So you bought this a couple of years ago, and this was like your halo car. This is the one that you really had strived to buy. Not many people get to achieve that. A lot of people are like, oh, I want a purple Diablo.
I wanted one of those too. It didn't work out. Yeah.
How did this all work out for you? And how did you end up buying your dream car?
So in summer of 20, we launched Cars and Bids, which is our automotive auction platform. I had always felt that YouTube was not a long-term solution if you wanted to be like off the hamster wheel. Yeah. Like working at that level and getting content out at that level was just not going to be something I was going to be able to do forever. And I knew that someday there would be replacement people. Whistling Diesel would show up. I didn't know at the time it'd be Whistling, but now I do. Love them. And that like people would show up and like bring the audience with them, and I would event. I mean, if you look at any entertainer, any musician, like eventually U2 had their big period in the 80s and 90s, but like eventually people move on and want the next band.
Yes.
And that was going to be me. And so it was clear to me that I had to start a business, take the followers and like bring them somewhere more than just try to sell them t-shirts, like bring them to a business that I can control, that we can like actually do something with. So we launched that and we had started planning it in the end of 19, and it was going to be great. We were going to launch, and then COVID happened. And we delayed and pushed, and COVID and delayed, and there was more COVID. And we were just like, we've spent so much money on this, idea, we have to launch. And so we launched in summer of 20, and it turned out we launched into what we didn't know at the time, but what became like the greatest car market in the history of the automobile.
Yeah. So that was not planned. You were I see something coming.
I truly believed that we would fail because we were launching at this in the start of June of 20, which is we launched June 8 of 20. There wasn't a person on the planet who could have predicted what would happen in the auto market. Yeah. The stock market was in the tank. Car prices were dropping because if you looked on any of the other auction sites, eBay, Bergen Trailer, et cetera, like it was an absolute disaster zone. And here we were launching a new product. It was just like so clear that this was going to fail. But pretty quickly, the government cut interest rates, PPP loans flooded the market, everybody had cash, people were stuck at home.
Yeah.
The new car supply dried up because of the chip shortage. All these things worked in this incredible way to, by the end of that year, create an unbelievable car market. I mean, in 20 and 21, I was doing all the reserve setting in 20 and 21. And by that time, like the people would submit the cars and we would put a reserve on it for the auction. Like we couldn't set a reserve high enough. Like people would come in with their reserve request at 30 grand, let's say, and I would say, oh, it should be 25, and the car would sell for 46. And it was like, I probably shouldn't even be fighting these people, right? That was the market at the time. Like you couldn't look at comps from 90 days ago because the market was going in such a crazy direction. I remember. Yeah. It was crazy. So that was we launched, we were really successful. And then we got a pretty significant investment at the end of 22. And I took some cash off the table from that and bought myself our friend here.
Amazing.
German friend.
Where are you allowed to bid on Cars and Bids? Yeah. There's legal stuff about it?
No, there's not legal stuff. We generally kind of are like employees, I've generally advised the employees to only bid on cars with no reserve so that because then there's no real information asymmetry. But I've sold a bunch of cars there. I haven't bought anything there yet, but I'm on the site all the time because I work there. So like I see every car that goes live, and there's always stuff I'm interested in.
We talked to Randy Nonnenberg from Bring a Trailer.
Randy.
And they have a policy that no one can bid on stuff there. But he's like, but if it doesn't sell, I'm waiting for Donut to open our own auction site.
Harder than you think. Go for it. Others have tried, and looking back at it, I mean, we're on good footing now. We're profitable. The investment came and went, obviously, which was very financially beneficial to me. Yeah. It was tough. And people are like, what's your next business? And the answer is, there is no next business. I am never doing this again. Like people don't understand how hard it is to like start. And it wasn't just the auction business that we started. Like I started the YouTube channel, which was also a successful business. Yeah. And so like the YouTube channel is a successful business. It blows up. It does really well. Then we start the auction site. It's a successful business. It blows up and does really well. I got lucky twice. I can't imagine I'll get lucky another time. And also the amount of work that goes into doing that is just like, I'm too... Like I got kids now. I'm good. I'm all set.
I mean, it sounds like a lot of work. It doesn't seem like that much of luck. Like if you're actually understanding the market and you're doing the hard work and, the back end stuff, I feel like you're setting yourself up for success. And then the stuff like the uncontrollables, like the pandemic and stuff like that. If that happens and like helps your business, then that's just a plus. But I think you're really good at having foresight and like understanding your industry and obviously economics because of your degree and stuff.
But like starting a business any startup that is successful and is acquired and is like profitable there's more luck to it than a lot of startup founders would like to believe. I think a lot of startup founders who sell a business for a lot of money and buy stuff and have a lot of money then like to think that they're kind of a god and like,
everything I touch is gold.
Yeah. Like I see some of these guys interviewed like their opinion means anything about world politics or that just because they're rich, just because they sold a company. I don't feel that way. And I feel like there's a lot more luck in it than people. Yes, there was a lot of, I mean, I knew the audience was there. I knew the right time to launch it would be while the audience was still really there and captive. And a lot of my other YouTube colleagues have kind of let their audience sort of peak and then valley.
Yeah.
And that's a mistake. And there's a lot of examples of like things that we did right. Nonetheless, there is still a lot of luck to it.
Going from YouTube to Cars and Bids, what was like the biggest learning curve for you?
Managing a business with employees.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just me. I still have trouble with it. My employees will tell you, like, I'm an interesting person to work with. Like, for many years it was literally me. I determined the schedule. I determined everything. Like the moment the video would go live, I determined all this stuff. And like passing off that stuff, but not just delegating, but also just like managing employees and hiring and layoffs. And like the whole thing is just like very foreign to me. And I still don't think I honestly do a very good job as a manager or as someone who runs a business, which is one of the reasons why our investors kind of insisted we hire an experienced CEO to run the business, which is one of the great things that's ever happened to me in my life. So, I don't have to do it. So
you are more kind of in charge of operations?
I am only basically in charge of making videos and having them be successful and still doing it. So I participate a lot in the auction site, and I am very closely following it and follow every single day what cars sell, what cars don't, how much money we make, but I'm not doing a lot of decision making. And I think that's for the best for everyone involved.
I do not like managing that much.
It's hard.
I feel like once you start managing people, that's when you start realizing like your pitfalls. You're like, oh God, I really don't want to like break this hard news to someone, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I hate doing that. I've had to do that. I hate it. It's one of my least favorite things. But also, like like hiring, like I don't know. Yeah. They always have me interview people because I'm like I like still own part of the business, and it's like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a car YouTuber. I shouldn't be doing anything related to this.
Yeah. So what are your quirks and features?
Right. Like I don't know what to do. I'm like, so where are you from? I'm glad we have adults in the room. Let's put it. Getting an investment from a real company who knows how to scale businesses was like a big deal because they kind of knew what to do. And I'm very thankful for the people that we have on the staff now.
It's also, just good to have someone that's kind of detached from that and doesn't have personal relationships with anyone. And can like be blunt about stuff. When you came to film the game show at Donut, that's kind of when the market was starting to cool. I think it was like 2022, I want to say. And you were saying that you had to break some hard news to people listing their cars and be like, look, the reserve has to be $10,000 less than you think it's going to be.
Oh God.
It's even more so now, but like how dealing with those people personally, how did you break the news? How did you bring them back to reality?
You show them comps, and a lot of times they would just say no. A lot of times they would come back 6 months later. Hey, I still haven't sold it. Is that offer still good? A lot of times it wasn't still good.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times the market had cooled even more. I actually will say I think it's easier now because the market is steady. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows you can't look at results from 20 and 21.
Yeah.
Even if that hadn't been an inflated market, like nobody looks at 4-year-old data just generally. 5-year-old data. And so like it's easier now, but that was annoying. Like, and I was still doing most of the reserve setting at that time. And it was just like, people, come on, like your E92 M3 is not worth what it was, fall of 21 when interest rates were 0 and everybody could buy anything. Like, it's just not. Like, you got to be realistic.
Yeah.
And that was a hard time. And it was a hard time for the business. Like we slowed down. The market reset. Honestly, a lot of our sales a lot of our really big number sales in 22 and 21 were people flipping new cars. Rivians were like the hottest thing you could flip. Ford Lightnings were the hottest thing you could flip. That completely ended. Broncos, C8s, like that's all over. Like you can't buy a new car anymore and flip it. Like there's no margin
I feel like
there.
So many people tried that with the Cybertruck and just lost so much money.
The first couple months there was money to be made there, and that ended quick.
Yep.
And I don't think there are really any cars anymore. I mean, G-Wagons and new Ferraris and stuff but it's not really done commonly anymore. And that was a big part of our business. And so we had to kind of like retool but the business is doing better now than it ever has at any other point.
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
Good. Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah.
I feel like now the market is in a place where things have, like you said, have stabilized a little bit. But then there's these outliers where like an Integra sells for $200,000, and it's I feel like that is an artifact of crypto bros from the pandemic.
Yeah.
Who, like
there are more people who have money now than before.
Yeah.
And there are people who are willing to drop big money on very specific things. Like I don't think that you will see some of the crazy inflated, like we sold some cars that I just looked at the numbers and I was like, what is happening here? That's over. Like there are very rarely cars where I'm surprised when a very low mile ITR comes up or 100 series Land Cruiser and it makes the news. Oh, it's for $100,000. I'm actually not that surprised about that. The really amazing examples of stuff, even if it's stuff that you or I or regular people don't think of as special, it's special to some people.
Yeah.
And I'm not that surprised that stuff brings money, especially in today's climate where, because of the pandemic, because of the effects of that kind of financial situation in our country, in our world economy, there are more people with money. A lot of people made a ton of money on property at that time. A lot of people made a lot of money in the stock market or in individual stocks or in businesses that sold for inflated values. Like there are people who are out there still buying some of those cars. And that hasn't stopped, and I bet it won't stop.
Does any car in recent history pop out to you?
As like a crazy outlier sale?
Yeah, especially on Cars and Bids.
No, I can't think of any individually right now, but there definitely are some. If I was to like spend 20, 30 minutes on the site, I could definitely come up with a couple cars. It's like, whoa. We recently sold an E36 M3 convertible automatic for like crazy money.
What?
But also like you never really know where the market's going to go. And what seems like crazy money today may seem like not so crazy money in 5 years. The Countach is a great example of that. And it's hard to really identify. People say you're nuts, and then years later they come back and say, "How did you have the foresight?" It's like, well, that happens. The first guy who spent $6 million on a McLaren F1, I was going back reading. Sports Car Market does more analysis, and some guy had an auction, spent $6 million on a McLaren F1, and the auction analysis was like, "This is the most anybody's ever spent on one of these cars." The person either is crazy or he knows the future. And it turned out he knew the future.
Yeah.
And that happens.
Rowan Atkinson famously crashed his F1 twice.
Right.
Rebuilt it and sold it for like 10 times as much as he paid for it.
And that's like a $30 million car now. So people did okay.
Did you go to Monterey Car Week this week?
I went this year for the first time in a decade. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
What was your experience like?
I enjoyed it. So I used to go every year. And I was like one of the car spotter kids. Yeah. And I was like one of the even when I was was pretty into making content and it was like people would recognize me, I was still walking around like taking pictures of it. Yeah. I was like really into that.
Oh, like young broccoli head.
Yeah. I was that. It's like legit. I was that, especially the first few years I went. This year I brought my Countach, drove it around a ton. I put 200 miles on it during Car Week and I never left the area. Like I never went south of probably like a little bit beyond the Bixby Bridge. Like we were just driving a lot in that area. And so it was like fun to like be the person that the car spotter kid. I shared at Quail too, which was like a cool thing because I view that as like yours? The main event. There were a few there, but one of them was mine. Yeah. And so it was cool. I loved it. It is a lot. It's a lot. So we spend our summer, I spend my summer on the East Coast in like this little seaside town where there are no fun cars. And I just like play tennis and go to the beach and hang out with my kids. And usually I have spent the summer there and not gone to Car Week because we're there. This year I came back and like a day later I went to Car Week. Oh my God. That was a complete like punch in the face. Like, oh my God. Like I didn't remember it being so insane, but it is insane.
It's incredible.
It's just like a lot. Like every minute there's an event or there's this or there's something you got to see or whatever. And there's not a lot of downtime. And of course a lot of people are coming up to me and which is fine, but like, it all becomes like a lot after a while.
Definitely. We went for, I'd say like, it's not our first time. We went last year for one day to interview Horacio Pagani and had to come back right away. This year we're like, all right, let's spend 4 days up there. We had a bunch of interviews lined up. And one thing that really stood out to me as far as like, what Larry Chen or Johnny Lieberman was doing was like at the Quail, they have those press conferences every 10, 20 minutes. They were posting within 4 minutes. And I'm like, how do you have time to do this? Like what?
That was my life back when I was a freelance writer. That was my life.
But in those situations, can you even enjoy yourself?
I don't know. Those guys, I'm not sure. Like, do they really enjoy it? Like they're working. Like they're there probably on someone's dime, like working.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they really enjoy themselves at those things. For me, I went like, I went with like my 6 closest friends and we all just kind of did like a friends trip. And I like enjoyed myself, but it's also just like, oh man, it's just so much. There's just so much going on.
I know.
There's just, your attention is constantly getting, there is no part of Monterey Car Week where you don't have FOMO that you should be maybe doing something else. Like there is not a moment where I'm whatever, like we're at the Quail. Should I be in Carmel right now? Are there cool cars on Ocean Avenue in Carmel right now? Like, am I missing that? But if you're there, you're thinking, should I be at the racetrack right now? Is someone driving a 250 GTO and I'm not seeing that?
Yeah.
Like, should I be at Big Sur right now? Like, is there a photo shoot with 19 F50s? Like, am I missing that? Like, it's just a bit, there is no moment where there's not something like just really, it's a lot. Like by Sunday, I'm coming home and I'm like, I could not do cars for a while.
I don't want to look at a car.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how quickly you get acclimated to McLarens.
Yep.
And you're like, oh God, like get these McLarens out of my way. Like I just want to see the Bugatti.
F50s, it's like, okay, there's another F50. Cool. Yeah. I mean, cool. But like, you know, on the first day you're there, I remember I brought one of my buddies one time and this is years ago, and I explained to him like, this is gonna be insane. And the first day we show up, he's like taking pictures of Diablos. And I'm like, look, dude, you gotta understand, like you gotta pace yourself.
Yeah.
And boy, does it really become, I mean, there is nothing you can't see. We got the Countach, we were driving next to MC12.
Oh yeah.
There was an F50 with a flat tire pulled over in a thing. And we got pictures of the Countach and the F50 next to each other. Like, you know, T50s driving around. Like there is nothing that is not on the table.
Yeah.
Like as something that might be seen. XJ220, you never know what might be around the next corner.
What was the most jaw-dropping thing that you saw in the entire
this year?
Car Week?
You know what it really was for me? That company, Zinger 21C? Yeah, whatever, however you say it. I'm not going to really get into
Zinger.
The exact pronunciation of it. It just seems like it should be called something else. But that chassis,
yes,
that like AI developed chassis. So I'm not into this stuff. I don't care about any like inner workings, kind of like mechanical details. But somebody showed me, a buddy of mine that I was with, we happened to walk by it. And he was like, you should check this out. And he showed me it, and that they use like AI to like figure out how things should be optimized. And then the 3D print. I'm like astonished by the way that this looks. It looks almost human, like in like
that's
bone
what I'm saying.
structure. I think it was the coolest thing I have seen. Like, and we're sitting there with MC12s and F50s, and I'm like looking at this. Like, I told my friends yesterday that was the only picture I took all of Car Week that didn't have like people in it. Like my friends like doing a selfie was like that chassis. I was like, what is this thing?
It's almost like an alien symbiote like made its way into a chassis.
It looks like that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, in 25 years, are we all going to look back at cars with straight things and be like, this was so,
why were you,
what a pathetic old time way to do it, you know, like straight. But we might, like we actually might, like that might be the future of this. And it's pretty crazy.
It does. It looks like B made this.
That was probably the most jaw-dropping thing. Like, I don't think there's any car that I see on the road at Car Week that's really going to like really surprise me, because I'm already expecting, like if I don't see crazy stuff driving around, I'm surprised, right? Getting next to MC12, it's like, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I wasn't expecting that. I hadn't paid attention to this company. Obviously, I still don't know how to pronounce it. Like, I was not prepared for that.
We interviewed Lucas Zinger. I think he's like 21 years old. Zinger is actually like an aerospace company. And so this is like their first foray into a road car. And I think they are approaching it kind of like an aerospace company, where it's like, what is the most efficient process, design, whatever, like now that they have access to AI and stuff, I think it's really like changing how we think about how cars are made.
Totally.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Now that we're talking about Car Week, you have came out and said that you are not a fan of like these crazy 7-figure one-off cars.
Yeah.
Now
mostly
that we've seen a million debuts of these one-off cars, how do you, I feel like there's way more than there has ever been before.
Yeah. To me, like the kids go nuts about the Wyras.
Yeah.
I think they're like the most tasteless things I've ever seen in my life. The Koenigseggs are not as tasteless, but like, I just like don't know. I just don't quite have, they just don't feel as special to me. Like, like, could I make a car that cost $10 million and was a one-off for some rich dude and was really crazy looking and cool? Man, probably. Like, to be able to create a car that, like the Veyron was such a feat because like they had to build those. Like they had to sell that thing. Like they're like, that is a pretty insane thing to build 400 of something like that.
Yeah.
And have it like succeed and be that fast and perform at that level. I often find that the people who are buying the one-off cars are shockingly tasteless.
Oh, 100%.
Like, the specs on some of these Paganis, I'm like astonished sometimes by what I see. That like, I can't believe they thought this looked good. I can't believe Pagani let them do it. Like, I'm like really sometimes like blown away by some of these cars and how bad they are.
It's almost to the point, like, all respect due to Horacio Pagani, Gordon Murray, those dudes. I'm at one point, does it like chip away at your integrity as a car maker right. to like make a Billionaire
right.
his one-off
a Billionaire car.
Yeah.
And is that even special? Like, think about that. Like, is that even a special thing anymore? Like, a Billionaire commissions them to make a car. Like, to me, what made a car special years ago was like, this is a special car. And we kind of like fit into the box of like, Carrera GT is special because like this was an engineering marvel. It was a special car that was created and done. Now cars are special based on a Billionaire has a whim. Can we make the wing bigger?
Yeah.
I actually think the Gordon Murray one, the S1, is a special car
think it's cool.
in part because it isn't like this over the top, like all about like the way it looks and the color choices. No. It's special because it has a special powertrain. It has a special it's going to be a special driving experience and a special vehicular experience.
Absolutely. As
opposed to like a Billionaire's EcoFlex. I don't think making an expensive car necessarily creates a special car. And I have to say, the market is starting to agree with me. You're watching sales of the new Countach. Those aren't selling anywhere near sticker. The market does not view that car as special. I think that a lot of cars like that, just creating an expensive car and saying it's a limited run. What used to make a car limited was that like not that many people could like afford it or handle to buy it. Like a Countach, you had to be a special person to like want that car back in the day. They made as many as they could. It turned out only 2,000 people were qualified and capable.
Yeah.
But now like they do a special production run, and that's like, to me, that doesn't make a car special. What makes a car special is the market deems it special.
Yeah.
Is that like people say that is cool. And I don't think a lot of people are saying that about these one-off cars, especially people with taste.
I do. I think I agree with you that the S1 LM or whatever it's called is tasteful. It's a cool, homage to the F1. The thing that pisses me off is that one guy gets to own all of them, which is like, you do. Like, come on.
I still am not entirely sure what the backstory is there. I have a suspicion that was a fundraise and they needed 100 million.
Oh yeah.
And the guy said, I'll give you it, but I want a car. He wasn't going to pay 100 million for one car. So they made him 5. He could sell one later and it's worth whatever. Like, I don't know. That's a speculation on my part, but I bet there was more to that story than just like one dude bought 5. And, there may have been some under the table dealings going on.
I think like the Quail kind of brought down the veil for me of like, oh, these like, they're dressed in, multi-$1,000 suits and they're putting on this like, they're peacocking at this event. But at the end of the day, they are, like trying to find new investors, trying to find people to buy their cars.
Yeah.
We got the exclusive first drive in the Roof tribute. And Alois Roof was in the front seat with us and we were taking it down to Big Sur and stuff. And this Porsche was following behind us. And I was like, do you know him? And he's like, no, I don't know. And so we pulled over to switch drivers and they just approached him. And we were just taking beauty shots and we got back in the car and he's like, some people sell oranges on the side of the road. I just sold a car.
That's the thing. Like at the end of the day, the thing about the car business is, and if you haven't like worked in the biz, like at a dealer or at a company, like you don't necessarily understand this as well, or go to the events and see that kind of thing happen.
Yeah.
Like we are all the buy here, pay here lot with the guy with the wavy arm guy out front. Like there are veils and levels of it and whatever, but like at the end of the day, whether you're selling a Chiron or you're selling a Hyundai Accent for buy here, pay here, crazy financing, like it is the same basic business all the way through. That's like what it is. And that's true of Roof and it's true of Bugatti and it's true of Honda. Yeah. Like that is it. Like writing, the big outlines, big letters on the windows of the dealership, Honda days or whatever. They do that. That's the business. That's how it is.
I think once I realized that, I was like, oh, they're just people. Yeah. You can talk to them like probably not going to want to talk about the ins and outs of their business, but like they will get down to your level if you get there. You know?
Yeah. Totally.
So that was like the most eye-opening thing for me for Car Week, because we were completely out of place. Donut does not belong in Car Week.
I don't know. I mean, I think that I am surprised how many really ultra expensive cars are there now.
Yeah.
But like, there's also a lot of kids who just like are kids who consume media, people who watch your content, no doubt, and mine.
The broccoli heads.
Yeah. Like they're there and like, they're just enjoying it. And I think that's part of it too. And I think a lot has been made this year at Car Week about how, it's gotten to the hypercars and it's kind of jumped the shark. I don't agree. I think that it's always what it was people wanted to see cool cars.
Yeah.
And this is today's level of cool cars is Koenigseggs and stuff. And in 20 years, it'll be something else. And that's the way it is.
And I think it's so funny that the narrative coming out of Car Week was like, these kids are ruining Car Week. It's like, no, this is the future.
That is Car Week. And yeah, that is the future. I totally agree with that. And to me, as the kid who was that kid 15 years ago, that like was what it was always about. You go up there, dude. The first year I went to Car Week, my buddy Daniel bought a E39 528i wagon on Craigslist for nothing. It was an automatic. It was 250,000 miles.
Wow.
He lived in Santa Barbara. I flew out to meet him. Me and him drove up the coast together, and like we like lived out of this 528i and like hoped to see cool stuff on the road. Like that was Car Week. And like here I am now with the Countach. All these kids are going to be that. Like some of these kids are going to end up there in 15 years driving their own Countach, like or whatever the equivalent. That's what this event is to me.
Yeah, I think it's people kind of clutching their pearls and realizing it's not as exclusive as they want it to be or something. Yeah. But I'm for one happy that it's expanding and it's going towards, Salinas or the surrounding towns and becoming more accessible to people who don't have quail money.
Well, that's the other thing. When I was a kid, I grew up in Denver. We had a Ferrari dealer. We didn't have a Lambo dealer. We didn't have a Rolls Royce dealer. We didn't have an Aston dealer until I was like in high school. You didn't see those cars.
Yeah.
You read about those cars in magazines. There was no Instagram. I didn't know that there was one car show every summer called Automezzi in Denver where like people would bring Italian cars. And like that was the only time I saw a Countach or a Testarossa or a 355. Those cars didn't exist when I was a kid. And like the fact that like kids, like you said, accessibility, like you mentioned, like kids today have the ability to go and like, there's an event. Kids came up to me at this event. Hey, I ask everybody where they're from. I love places. I'm like, where are you from? Mm-hmm. Maryland. We drove here from Texas. Like I met two different groups of people from South America.
Holy crap.
Like, to be able to go to an event and like see these cars that you dream about, like I would have killed as a kid for that opportunity. And I think it's like super cool that it happens. And I was thrilled this year to drive my Countach around and like be one of the people who like, oh man, look at that. Like that was so cool.
That's such an awesome full circle moment.
Yeah, totally.
Well, Doug, we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us on the Big Three. Check out Cars and Bids. Also check out Doug's YouTube channel, which you have probably watched his video before you come here. Thank you, Doug, for having us at Cars and Bids headquarters.
Thanks for coming.
Anytime you want to come up to LA and do a video with Donut again, we'd love to have you.
Cool.
That offer's on the table, and thank you for having us. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for coming down. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Doug.
Appreciate it.